And I am your program host, Adam Messer. This is the Adam Messer Show. And today, my special guests are Allan Gunnels and Ryan Dunn. And can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, let me pop this up just a little bit here. We were transitioning over from the last show, so they were boogieing on out. So we're running just a few minutes behind, but that's okay. Community radio and all. So anyway, so yeah, welcome guys. Thanks a lot for being on the show. Mark, you have a new book called 324 Abercorn, right?
I do. It's coming out on July 8th.
Awesome. Well, that is really cool. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it's what I call my Savannah novel. I don't live in Savannah. I'm not from Savannah, but I am in love with Savannah. And my husband and I go there every year. And I really wanted to write a novel set there, and I got an idea during one of our trips there. Sort of my take on the classic haunted house tale, and that's what I'm offering up to people this time.
Oh, cool. Can you give us a little premise on it?
Yeah, the premise is a famous, successful writer moves to Savannah, buys an old home, renovates it. It has a reputation, as a lot of things do in Savannah, as being haunted. But my character is more of I call him a Scully as opposed to a Mulder. But
you're referring to X-Files, right? For some of the listeners that might not be familiar with that reference. The X-Files was like this really cool sci-fi series in the 90s, and they just had like a couple of seasons last couple of years, but it was like kind of like a I don't know. They were FBI agents and they were like paranormal investigators type, kind of neat. But it had a popular thing. So Scully was one of the agents and Mulder was the other one, and Scully was always the skeptic, and Mulder was always like the believer.
Yeah, and I realize how old I am that I can't just say that and expect that people will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he doesn't quite believe in the paranormal, but there are some things happening in the house that might possibly help change his mind on that.
Okay. And Ryan Dunn, thank you. You both have been here before. Ryan, if y'all know, he's been here several times actually. And Ryan, you and your wife, you run the Afterlife. You all own the Afterlife tours here in Savannah, right? And you're an author yourself, right?
Right, yeah, I just finished my third book on Savannah's Afterlife 3, and also my first St. Augustine book, which will be St. Augustine's Afterlife. So they are at my local editor right now. She's giving it, the final go-over. And then maybe after another read-through and just a couple of brush-ups, it should be ready to go off to my publisher. So I'm glad to get that done. And Mark's book is awesome, by the way. I just finished it about a week and a half ago.
I'm actually really like halfway through, and it is pretty good. Yeah, it is.
Harold's one of my favorite characters. I love Harold. Harold is awesome. So,
thank you.
Not one of the main characters, but very, very a lot of the characters really embody Savannah. It feels like people I know here in town. A lot of the characters, so it's really awesome.
Well, and a little side bar here, everybody. So, I know I've talked a little bit about my Valhalla books anthology coming out. The Devils Do. Mark actually has a story in the anthology, so it's going to come out in October. And Ryan is going to be doing like a forward for us, talking about just kind of like paranormal stuff. So I'm pretty excited to have both y'all here today. Yeah, it's crazy, Ryan. I was actually by the man, I can't think of the name of it, but the lock and key store.
Oh, Bradley's, yeah, Bradley's Lock and Key.
I have never been past there though, until like last week, and then we had to go down the way a little bit because I wanted to go. What was it? The comic book store, Bass? Yeah, we were going to Odin and Sons because it was like new comic book day, and so we had to park a little bit further down. And we're walking, and I was like, wait a minute, this is the place that Ryan Dunn was talking about. And I was like, man, it is. It's like, it's really old, and, like it's still an active shop. They do, a lot of work there apparently. But man, I remember when you were on the show and we were talking about it, and you had that what was it called, EVP?
Yeah, from Milton. He was murdered by the I-95 killer, Gary Ray Bowles. And Bowles just got executed back, I want to say it was August or September of this past year. So it hadn't been that long ago they executed him.
That is just really crazy. That is really crazy. And Mark, you are like a horror writer. You write about a lot of spooky stuff, and so here's a question, like kind of a little behind the scenes. How did you two end up becoming friends and knowing or meeting each other?
Well, like I said, me and my husband go to Savannah every year, and one of the things we always do when we go to Savannah is do one of the walking ghost tours of the downtown area. And one year, I think we just Googled, because we always try to do a different tour company when we go, and we found Brian, and we were very impressed with the research that he does for his tour, because we've done some tours where they tell stories about houses, and then you look into it and there's no evidence that anything they told you ever transpired at that house. But with Ryan, like he clearly did his research. He had newspaper articles to back up what he was saying about the houses, and we really like that. And now every time we go, we always do one of Ryan's tours. And he did not pay me for this advertisement. We just really
Oh yeah, I'm not getting paid either, y'all. It's all volunteer. We're all just friends.
Then, yeah, we got to talking and found out that he, wrote, and I read his first book, and it was really impressive, and we just, got to know each other that way. And I think I even, asked him a few questions about the paranormal investigation side of things when I was doing the second draft of 324 Abercorn.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember you contacted me, and I'm a huge fan of horror too. So, me and Mark read a lot of the same authors, and just being a big horror fiction fan, it was pretty awesome to meet someone, and his writing's awesome. So I currently have, I think, like 15 or 20 of his books on Kindle right now. So I'm reading a lot of his stuff. So he's got a lot of good stuff.
Oh,
so.
wow. That is pretty cool. Well, y'all, and I think you remember that Sebastian, my son, Sebastian Messer plays. He's got a new amp that he's been itching to try out. So let's hear some live music, Sebastian. What do you think? All right, so this is Sebastian Messer, everybody. He's got this new amp and he's getting ready to try it out. So hold on one second. Let me pot up mic 3.
Awesome.
All right, there we go. All right, thanks a lot, Bass.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of neat because he's been playing for a couple years now, and so he's been trying out different styles, whatever. I kind of like that, Sebastian. It was kind of mellow, kind of neat. What song was that?
The first part of it was the solo from Gravity.
From Gravity?
Yeah, by John Mayer.
Oh, okay, with John Mayer. Oh, okay.
And the other part of it is whatever.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're just noodling a little bit. Nice. And Ryan, you're a musician too, aren't you?
Yeah, I played guitar. I still goof around, but I played in bands for quite a few years. Actually, when I met my wife, I was playing in a band, and we were pretty serious. But then, of course, we got married and kids came along. So, But yeah, I still play. So, and my oldest one now, Jennifer, she's 14. She's learning guitar. So I've been teaching her, which is
Oh,
really
awesome! That's awesome. Yeah, I can't play at all. Sebastian's done all that on his own. So, man, oh man, I'll tell you what. This has been a crazy year. I know, like we're all everybody on that background are listening in. Like we're all friends on Facebook, but you know, Facebook is only so far, you know, and it's crazy because I think, man, it was last year when I actually like it was about almost a year ago, Ryan, when I actually saw you in person last.
Yeah, I feel like it has. Yeah, it has
Yeah.
been. 'Cause we did the show with Renee, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like it's been a while, and then Mark, I haven't met you in person yet, but I know when you come to Savannah, we'll have to meet up. It's gonna be kind of fun. But
I mean, Mark and his husband Craig, they're awesome. They're great.
yeah. I tell
we
you what.
usually,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we usually go in the spring, so because of all this, we missed our usual
Mm-hmm.
time to go to Savannah. And I mean, it sounds weird. We don't live there, but we already are feeling a little homesick for it.
Yeah, that can happen, especially like you know when you're used to going a certain time of the year or whatever. Like when I was a kid, I grew up
Things
in.
get safe in the fall. Fall would be great too, because I know you love Halloween, Mark. You'd love Savannah at Halloween time.
Oh yeah, I remember as a
And I
kid,
don't
like
think we've ever been there that time.
you'd love it. Actually, it's a lot cooler.
Yeah, our house gets decorated really crazy too. We go all out, so real gory.
Yeah. You know, as a kid, growing up in Cincinnati, a lot of people went to Hilton Head for spring break. And I remember I used to work on Hilton Head back in the day. And there was a guy that was from there, grew up there. And he said, like back in the 60s, South Carolina had so much money, you know, to be able to advertise only to like one state. And they advertised Hilton Head to Ohio. And so I was like, that kind of makes sense because as a kid, like everybody went, you know, down there for spring break or whatever, and you know, and then like in this area or whatever, I don't know. It's one of those things you kind of get used to, like, you know, if you go on vacations or whatever. You know, when I was a kid growing up in Ohio, we had family down here in Savannah, so we would come. We didn't come every year because of the expenses or whatever. I mean, obviously we'd stay with family or whatever, but even still, you know, back then it was expensive. And but we'd come like, you know, every couple of years or so. And I remember when I first moved here in '96, I was like, there's like nothing to do, you know, as a kid. And now as an adult, I'm like, man, there's so much to do. It's like too much. You have to pick from like all the stuff to, you know, every Saturday there's like a bunch of stuff. And then of course this year has been kind of like an oddball year with the pandemic and all. I mean, because, you know. But we were out earlier today down on Broughton Street. We went over to Planet Fun and Nerdheim, and we stopped over at Odin and Sons, the comic book store, and just checking it out, kind of, you know, catting around a little bit, and it was kind of neat. It was a lot of fun. That's one of the things I love about Savannah is like you can just kind of peruse around and, you know, have a good time, and, you know.
It's just a very welcoming city. I think that's what everybody loves about it. I'm from North Carolina, so I'm not even a native, but there's something about this town that just draws people, and it's beautiful. So.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, you're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Silence Community Radio with Global Soul, and this is the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guests today are Allan Gunnels, who is an author, and we have also Ryan Dunn, who is the owner of Afterlife Tours. Ryan, you and your wife, you started the Afterlife Tours. Mark, you were talking about, like, you know, when you came down, you were really impressed. That's one of the things I completely agree. You being impressed with the level of research, because, you know, I'm not so much a Mulder and I'm not so much a Scully. I'm kind of like in between. I'm like, well, there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and really until you sent me those EVPs before that first show we did. Like, okay, so Mark, a little backstory here. I was like, dude, Ryan's been at my conventions. He's been a special guest, been a panel guest and stuff like that at my book conventions and stuff, right? And So I was like, I gotta have you on the show. I want to have you on the show or whatever. And so Ryan's like, okay, I'm gonna send you some of these EVPs. And I tell you, like, all right. So I'm now this is as a kid. I mean, we're all about the same age range. You know, I grew up watching 80s style horror, 70s style horror. You know, watching what was the one files gosh, having a brain cramp here.
Not X-Files. What are you talking about?
The true crime one where they're like the unsolved
Mysteries.
Yeah, you know, stuff like that, right? So I'm used to like, you know, and I like that kind of stuff. Ryan sends me these 3 EVP files like through Google, you know, Drive or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I listened to them, and I was like, I had a chill, like the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I didn't even know like the context of what these were. Okay, Ryan just sent them to me so I could have them ready for the show, and so we're on the show, and Ryan's explaining to me like, okay, you know, like with the Bradley lock and key or whatever. And I think, was that the one that, like he says, Harriet or something like that?
Or no, it said help me. There's a help me from there. Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, oh my gosh, you know, we're doing, and the one, what was that one? It was Harriet?
No,
not Harriet. Hillary. Yeah. Sorry, man. I'm telling you, that was really spooky to me. And you know, the cool thing about it, like the thing I'd like, Ryan, that you do, and this kind of ties in with your writing, Mark, too, is it's about the humans. It's about the people. You know, so like with your investigations, Ryan, that you and your wife and your crew do, it's about the folks that were there, the real people,
right.
You know, the history of the building or the history of, you know, whatever. And Ryan, you know, Mark, you know, obviously, you know, Ryan and I both like your writing, but the way you write your books, it seems like it's the same thing. It's from the perspective of like, these are real people, even though they're fictional characters, it seems like you write them kind of like a real person.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important, especially when you're working in the horror or fantasy genres where you're introducing all these otherworldly elements, to give it a firm grounding so it'll be easier for people to suspend their disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way, I think, to do that is to create characters that feel authentic and recognizable. You can relate to them, you feel like you know them, and then you go with them into whatever supernatural or horrific, you know, journeys they're taking. They just take you along with them because you feel a connection to the people. So I do try to build my stories from the characters up.
And that's something I really like. And Ryan, with your Savannah Afterlife, you know, like you said that you're in the process of doing the edits on the 3rd one. These are investigations that you've done around Savannah and the outlying areas, and then you got the new one with St. Augustine and all. And it feels like that's the same kind of approach that you take, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely making sure we talk to the people about what really happened as far as personal experiences, and then doing the research as far as getting the names of who really died there and what events really took place versus what a lot of the people say, you know, happened, that a lot of times never happened. And then it's really fun, you know, then we go in and investigate, so you get to hear about what happened while we were in these buildings overnight. Some places we had a story in the 2nd book where an exorcism was performed because things are so bad. So it's been almost surreal to be involved in some of this, but we've had some really, really crazy cases over the years.
Oh yeah, you know, it's cool too because like last year, Ryan, when you were on that Travel Channel show, the world's most terrifying places or whatever, and we were down there at Moon River.
Right.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like, okay, so we're like Ryan, you know, they're doing like a casting call or whatever for extras, and then Ryan had posted, and I sent him a message, and he sent me the contact information, and they selected me as one of the extras, right? And so I had like no idea about, like, Mark, this is such a cool story, but Ryan, would you kind of give us like a summary of, you know, of the story that you gave on the show?
Yeah, it was about a Moon River Brewery, which the building was built in the early 1820s, and it was the oldest hotel in Savannah. It was the Old City Hotel. And they had an argument there in the 1830s between two guys at the bar, and one was a Jewish doctor named Dr. Philip Munnis, and the other guy, a guy named James Stark. And Stark started shouting derogatory comments towards the Jewish doctor, and they got in a huge argument. The doctor challenges Stark to a duel. Stark would never agree to the terms for the duel. He kind of started backtracking. So over the next few days, when these guys ran into each other on the streets, they'd be shouting at each other. And a few nights later, they met back at the bar at the hotel just by happenstance. They were both there having drinks. And it escalated to where James Stark pulled a pistol out. Or actually, he reached in his coat, rather. And the doctor pulled his pistol out and shot and killed Stark on the staircase. And it turned out Stark was unarmed. So the doctor went to prison and got charged with murder and was later acquitted of all the charges. But the place where Stark was shot and killed, people have been pushed down the staircase. And Moon River's been there. It's been, I think, 21 years now they've been there. And they have not renovated the top 2 floors of the building. There's still no power on the 3rd and 4th floor. They had a contractor's wife pushed down the stairs there, and it's just a really crazy history. And it was also used as a yellow fever hospital in 1876.
And the crazy thing about it was, I didn't know any of that, right? And I'm just playing like this extra Mark, and they had me playing the role of James Stark. So like they were kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of like over the top and whatever, and and then I didn't know the whole story until actually I watched the show myself. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy because, that place, the upper floors, like the bottom, the bottom's, pretty modern. Like it's kind of like, Savannah with it's been renovated and all that stuff or whatever. But the top floors, I mean, like literally, it's just, you can tell. I mean, like the building is I don't know what, 150, 200 years old. I don't know how old the building is.
Yeah, it's 1821. So it'll be 200 years, next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, but it definitely, it's like you've got the old brick up there. There's places where there's like holes in the floor, and and the one scene, there was one scene too where the contractor's wife that got pushed down. I played the contractor husband. Okay, so I was the husband or whatever, and they had me hammering on this wooden frame bed or whatever, right? And there was this one part, like there were like a group of us that were playing these extras or whatever. And there was this one part, and I told Ryan about this, but I'll just share it with you, Mark, because this is the first time I've shared it with you. But we were playing the yellow fever victims, right? And now this is in July. It's hot. There's no air conditioning up there on those floors. It's hot, And we've got our clothes on, and then we have these nightgowns and these caps over our head, kind of like the old school, like sleeping wear or whatever, right? And we're on that we're actually in the room, one of the rooms where they had the hospital beds and stuff like that, and we're reenacting the scene, and all of a sudden I feel like this chill, like this cool air coming up underneath me, right? And I was looking around, and you would move from one spot to another, and there was like it was just like one little spot, and it was just whatever. And I had somebody else come over, and they're like, I don't feel it. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not a Scully and I'm not a Mulder, but that kind of stuff is like you just don't know. And I don't like to mess around with anything like that, like voodoo or any of that stuff. I don't take chances or play around with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, like Savannah there's a lot of history here, and I find it fascinating, like, because I like to write horror, but I find it fascinating, Ryan, with what you do, and then Mark, the way that you write your stories. I think it's just really cool. It's kind of like you got the one. It's not what do I say? It's not like historical fiction. It's more like what did we call it last time? Like paranormal history or something like that, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess so. Cause it's more. I mean,
because you come from the historical aspect of it, yeah.
I definitely take everything in and then put it together, into a format that makes it readable and talks about what we've experienced along with the history.
Yeah, and Mark, you with your writing, like, and I'm not going to give any spoilers out here, everybody, but your story that you have coming up for our anthology with The Devil's Due, man, I was blown away just reading. I was like, oh man, this is so cool.
Well, I was excited to write that story for that anthology. I was just finishing up a novella I had been working on, when you brought this idea. And I mean, it was not an idea I already had in my head. It was you and I talking about the anthology and the types of stories you were looking for that sort of gave me the idea for this sort of weird, dark fairy tale almost story.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had so much fun writing it. And, I'm just happy you wanted to have me on board.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. I've got one story out with one author. I'm thinking I might have to pick up two authors, because I'm not sure. Like the one guy, he's a solid guy, but he's just been having a difficult time with writing this short story or whatever, and so I might have to trade out and have him like on the next year's anthology or whatever. But the authors that we have and the stories that we have, it's all like that same kind of mesh, you know what I mean? Like everybody, like the different authors that I picked, I was like, okay. And Ryan, the reason why I asked you to do the forward is because you are a prolific reader, you do a lot of historical research, and and I feel like you've got a good sense of like what people like. I mean, you're a storyteller yourself, and and I think that's one of the things kind of coming together, like, because we all do our own independent stuff, even being published or not published or whatever. We all have like our own indie stuff, and I think that's what it is like coming back to the storytelling aspect of it. And that's why I think that's why I like it so much. It's like you just kind of connect, and you're like, oh man, you can really dive into those stories and really kind of just it's almost like a form of escapism.
Yeah, I've been reading Mark stuff for a while now, and like the past few months, that's pretty much all I've been reading. So it's been Mark is definitely doing great things in the horror fiction genre.
And
so
everybody, Ryan actually introduced me to Mark, so that was pretty cool.
Ryan's been very nice to me, but and I have not paid him for his endorsement either.
No, I love horror, and he's great at it. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, none of this is paid to everybody. This is so crazy, but I know it sounds like, we're all like, oh, yeah, buy this drink right now. Like, no. Oh, man. All right, we're going to play some station information real quick, guys, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes or so. So, everybody, you're tuning in today to the Adam Messer Show with my special guests, Mark Allan Gunnels and Ryan Dunn. And we're here on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. Right now, federal and state guidelines recommend staying home if possible and limiting time in public places as precautions associated with social distancing.
Cool. So
the more we use social distancing techniques, the more we reduce the risk of the virus spreading. This is especially important for older people and those with underlying health conditions who are most vulnerable to the virus. More information can be found at dph.georgia.gov.
It'll be over probably about 2 minutes or so, but I think I have to have it plugged in.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with Global Soul.
How many times have you heard WRUU's corporate underwriting message? If you remember it, then your potential customers will remember your message as well. We are offering this space to connect corporate and institutional partners with our loyal and active listeners. Underwriting on WRUU is short, so listeners don't tune out. It's exclusive, so your message won't be lost in advertising clutter. And it supports Savannah's only community radio station. For a marketing package to increase your reach beyond traditional media, email underwriting@wruu.org.
This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is brought to you by listeners and the Ships of the Sea Museum. The Ships of the Sea Museum is a member of the National Trust for Historic Preservation's Distinctive Destinations program. The William Scarborough House is the earliest example of the use of Greek Revival architecture in the domestic setting, and this year is the 200th anniversary of the Scarborough House. Find out more about Ships of the Sea Museum at the website shipsofthesea.org.
All right, everybody, and here is Sebastian Messer again, playing some live music for us. Take it away, Bass.
Sorry, it's super loud.
Yeah, I'm all right. You got it? All right, thanks, man. Okay, so yeah, we might have to. You know what we might have to do on that one, Bass, is we might have to move the amp back a little bit from the mic, because sorry, everybody. Like in the studio, we just got the amp and like the mic, and it's not plugged into the soundboard, and also sometimes it sounds good and sometimes it doesn't. So I think it was not bad. It was like it was okay. Yeah. All right, so everybody, welcome back. We were on the second half of the first hour of the Adam Messer Show with Mark Allan Gunnels and Ryan Dunn, and I want to give a shout out. This is something I like to do. I've been kind of doing this lately, but Terry and Darlene Dremel, I think they're like our most loyal fans, most loyal listeners and friends, and just all around great people. They sent me a picture of the two of them with their radio station, or their radio listen. They're actually listening right now, and they sent me a picture of them listening. So I think that's
nice.
Cool. So yeah, I want to just give a shout out. I really appreciate everybody that tunes in. We're a all volunteer radio station here. I just hit y'all my second anniversary for doing the show was what was it, last week, Bass? Was it last week? It was 6th. I think it was the 15th. Yeah, it was the 15th. Like last week or the week before. Anyway, and I love doing the show. I love talking with artists and authors and entertainers, creative people. So for everybody listening, this is what we love doing. I mean, like all the different hosts that we do it. We're all volunteers, and we enjoy doing them. I mean, it's kind of fun being on the radio. Like I do a talk show. We have different talk shows or whatever here at WRUU. And one of the only way we can do this is with people like yourself who are listening, to share our stuff and to make donations. Like we have a big pledge drive that we do every year. Every dollar helps, and you don't have to have like a subscription or anything like that. You can go on to the WRUU.org website and you could donate even like $1. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but every dollar helps towards making our monthly expenses. And like I'll give an example with the COVID-19 pandemic. There's been a lot of different events and stuff like that we've had to cancel. So if you would just consider making a donation if you'd like to. No pressure. I'm not trying to twist anybody's arm here, but we that's how we do it. So thanks everybody for listening. All right, so back to the story at hand. Matter of fact, you know what? Do y'all have anybody you'd like to give a shout out to since we're doing that?
Well, I know. Other than you two, I have a couple of writer friends who live in Savannah, Pete Giglio and Sean Hayden. So shout out to them.
Cool. Very cool.
I'll give a shout out to my wife, Kim. She's not on with us right now, but of course she's a huge part of what we do with investigations and the tour and everything.
Oh, and she's got like a new store too, right? Like she's got some kind of new craft store or something like that.
Yeah, so she's got a store called The Other Side. And
like she makes handmade like craft stuff, right?
Dude, all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of witch stuff. She's got handcrafted voodoo dolls, spell kits, all kinds of cool stuff. So
Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm Catholic. I'm Christian. And I don't mess with any of that kind of stuff. But I think it's so cool that she likes it and she makes this stuff by hand. And we had so much fun when y'all were on the show together. Like we had a ton of
Christian
fun.
too. We just don't dabble in any of the. We don't do any of the dark stuff. We don't dabble with anything. Of course, evil or any of that. But I feel like sometimes with what we do,
I have several friends that are Wiccan.
Sure.
I have several friends that are Wiccan, and it's one of those things like it's not for me. It's not like my thing. But I really appreciate the fact that she does like all this really cool stuff.
Yeah, there's lots of herbs and things too, but all kinds of cool stuff. And she even makes protection stuff for us when we go out. So,
I was thinking too, Ryan, because we're like right across the street from St. John the Baptist Cathedral, and right. Don't you like when you have to call in kind of like the not an exorcist type thing, but
actually, well, yeah, we did call out a priest there to do an exorcism from St. John's. So
yeah, and you get your holy water from there too, right?
Right, yeah. So that's
blessings.
Always, yeah, and so it's been great. And then the other person to give a shout out to real quick, just really fast. We got a new tour guide working for us, Keely Davis, doing tours in Savannah, and they are awesome. Keely's been killing it for us. So.
That that kind of brings up like how is that going, man? Because I know they've been kind of slowly opening things back up. I mean, like I didn't even know that you're doing the tours yet again.
So I'm actually not back to doing tours. I've actually pretty much retired from doing tours now myself. I'm doing all the investigations, me and Kim, and the writing of the tours and all the training. But of course, we've now got guides running for us. Just give me more time to focus on. We're looking at reopening in some other cities, trying to get Kim's shop up and running and the website going for that. But it's been really weird because reopening, people are treating it. A lot of people like this. Nothing ever happened. Just coming back out. Of course, we're taking precautions.
Mm-hmm.
All of our tours are outside. We're not doing the mid tour pub stop or going into restroom breaks. We're not going into Moon River for the 10 o'clock tour right now. Keeping things all outside to keep our guests safe.
Mm-hmm.
All of our payments are online, so we're not doing any in-person payments. So no, and nothing with touching of hands, of course. But it's still scary. So
there've been a lot of local restaurants that have had to shut back down because they had active cases of COVID-19. I was surprised. I saw Leopold's yesterday. I was like, what?
One of our tour guides in St. Augustine, his wife tested positive for COVID.
So
we shut down there. So we're going to be reopening there in about another week and a half. But of course, we're giving it's been about 3 weeks since, that it's happened. So
I hope they're okay.
Yeah, they're doing great. I'm not doing great. Of course, they're trying to get through it, but not anything on the level of hospitalization or anything so far. So,
good. Yeah.
But it's scary. I mean, we're doing all the precautions we can, and it's still. I mean, we don't know if it was from a tour or quite possibly. I mean, he works a day job too, so I mean, anything. But Florida's seeing a big spike, so all the tourists. And I think Savannah will too.
And Mark, your husband, Craig, he's a nurse, right?
He is, yes.
And he's, because I'm connected with him on Facebook too, and I think he's been posting like he's been doing stuff like for COVID testing or something like that.
Yeah, they send him out to different businesses. And he does COVID screenings for anybody coming in. So he's been doing that.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
All time this has been going on, yeah.
Well,
we just have
thank
to be...
you, I mean, for being out there on the front lines and taking care of everyone else. It's amazing. So I got a lot of respect for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I second that thought. I think it's crazy. I mean, like you just I know there's some people like, oh, I don't want to wear a mask. But nobody wants to get sick. I mean, nobody wants to see their loved ones getting sick. And, so I think it's like an ounce of caution, is better than a pound of cure,
Yeah.
So, but, anyway, so we kind of started off talking about like a little bit about the, background of the book, your 324 Abercorn. which is set here in Savannah, and it's about an author who moves here and buys what turns out to be like a haunted house, or a house with some unexpected guests or whatever, right? Can you talk more about and I believe it's Crystal Lake Publishing is who is your publisher? Is that right?
It is. I've worked with Crystal Lake for a few books now.
Yeah.
And, there's a gorgeous cover they've made for it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I like that little animated cover that you've been sharing, the one with the little hand. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something Crystal Lake's been experimenting with lately, is animated covers to put online, which is pretty cool. But they always have great artwork on their covers. I'm always impressed by what they come up with. And the artist works like they communicate with me to see, and I sort of gave him the idea that he turned into the cover. But, because I do love Savannah, most of my stuff is set locally where I live in upstate South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But because I love Savannah so much, I really wanted it to feel like Savannah, because I've read a couple of books lately that were set in Savannah, but they were set in Savannah in that the author said, "This is Savannah," and every now and again would mention a street name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but all the action took place in very generic places, and it really could have been anywhere. So
Josh Vasquez and I were talking about that last on the last show, because he and I are like video game buffs or whatever. We like video games or whatever, and we were talking about there's this one video game, I don't want to name it, but it says it's in Savannah, but it's it has does not look anything like Savannah. And then there's this other one that is a really good game that starts off in Savannah and is set in Savannah, and it looks like like they did like a virtual map of Savannah.
Yeah.
Like, at least for the scenes that you do. And it's crazy because having written I actually wrote the Savannah Vampire novel series, and I started off my book series in Savannah, and so that living here and whatever, I have a little bit more reference because of that. But there's this other series that was supposed to be set in Savannah, and one of the weird things about it was it's nothing about Savannah at all. And and I was like, it's just so crazy because it's I feel like if you're gonna do some research, you need to at least try to make it authentic. So can you tell us more about how you did the research? Besides, you come down here anyway, it's kind of like a second home for y'all anyway. So how did that go?
Well, I firmly believe if you're going to set a book somewhere specific, then you should be specific about it, like you said it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do go there a lot. I have friends that live there that I probably annoyed with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
As I was writing, and I also wrote with a map next to me the whole time, because it might not mean much to some people, but if I had a character going out of a specific store headed to Forsyth Park, I wanted to see which way will they turn. So in the book, it's just a quick and then he took a left out of the store. But in my head, I'm thinking somebody that lives there might be you would turn left out of that store to get to Forsyth Park.
I noticed that a lot, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I really wanted that level of
that's actually a part that kind
detail
of
in there.
stood out to me too. I was because a lot of people don't do that when they're writing. They don't say like a specific direction or whatever that they're going when they're traveling. Unless they say something like, I'm going to north on 95 or something like that,
Yeah. And again, for the average reader, it might not mean anything, but for some reason when I'm writing, I like it to be, I'm setting it in a real place, as authentic as possible, to set that groundwork, again, so that the more outlandish stuff is easier to swallow because the foundation of the people and the places are authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like for a year I got to vicariously live in Savannah. Because every day I would go and I would be in Savannah, and I wanted to capture the geography, but also there's just an atmosphere to the city that I don't even think I can describe. But I don't know. There's
Je ne sais quoi. We love that word for je ne sais quoi. Like, I don't know what. Hold on for a second. Let me do a station ID. Everybody, you're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And yeah, I mean, like, there is that. And that's, you know, talking about the je ne sais quoi, that's how I felt, like, going back to the EVP thing, that's how I felt when, like, Ryan, when you were explaining to me, like, the meanings behind those EVPs and the stories behind it. It was just like, I don't know how to feel about this other than it's spooky. You know, it's like really spooky. And when I was reading, like, I'm like halfway through your book, Mark, and you know, it's really good. I like there's this one scene where I'm not trying to do a spoiler here, but there's this one scene where the guy drops his groceries, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I could visualize this guy, you know, going up the steps and he drops his groceries, you know, just from the way he described
happens in
it.
Savannah all the time in those houses with those stairs like that. We used to live in a house like that, and I could totally picture it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I try to, you know, one arm like all the groceries, you know, going into the house because I'm like, I'm not going back for a second trip, you know. But that's a feeling that I get, like, you know, while I was reading your book, and then like the, you know, the short story, like, you know, you can tell that you've been working on your craft for a long time. So that's really cool. So when getting that authenticity, right? You know, kind of like the not the nooks and crannies, but like just kind of the nuances of the storytelling, right?
I feel like he puts you in the book. Like when you're reading Mark's stuff, it's a great escape because like you're in the book with the characters, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
So like in your mind, Mark, I mean, like, what is that like? Because, you know, you spend a lot of time with a map and, you know, asking friends and, you know, people that live here, and, you know, and obviously you've been here before, so you know you have a familiarity with it and all. So when you're writing like that and that's your goal, you know, do you feel like, you know, because I know this is how I feel when I write. I feel like I'm visualizing myself, or I'm kind of imagining the scene or whatever, and then I'm just watching as things go on. Is that how you feel when you're writing, or?
I definitely, because I'm not much of an outliner, and if I do an outline, it's very loose and tentative. Mm-hmm. I really like to just set things in motion.
Okay.
And then I do sort of see it in my head, like I'm seeing these people, I'm seeing what they're doing, and in some ways I feel like I'm just dictating it. I mean, I know that sounds
No, it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, because it's like watching a movie, and like I'm kind of like a bystander watching the movie, or you know, watching, like, you know, seeing the characters, you know, just unfold with what they're doing.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm still creating it, but I feel like if you do a good enough job of giving your characters very distinct personalities, then you're going to start scenes where they're going to dictate what happens based on the personalities you created for them. Like, there may be something I thought they were going to do, but by the time I get there, I'm like, there's no way this character with that personality would do that. I mean, sometimes, I know Ryan mentioned my character Harold. Sometimes small characters sort of really take on a big life to me. Mm-hmm. And that definitely was one of my favorite characters to write, because I was never 100% sure when I started a scene what he was going to say. And I don't know, like, I was still making up the words, but it was the words that I felt like that's what that person would say here. Mm-hmm. And might not be the kind of thing I would say. But I don't know. It was a lot of fun doing that.
Harold's just a fun character, and I think it's had some of the best lines in the book. Like some of those lines that if it was a movie, you'd never forget. You know, just
thank you.
I think that's a really nice too, man. Like, I always appreciate when someone enjoys my work, you know, and that's one of the things I love about talking with creative people. You know, being able to talk with them about their work, you know, working with them, talking with them, seeing, like their process and, talking to them about, how they overcome obstacles and stuff like that. And, I think that's one of the biggest things. And I want to get more into this like in the next hour, but, because we got a few minutes left on this hour. But I think that's one of the biggest things is like we live in, like I'm 44. And we're all about the same age, in the same age range, not necessarily the same age, but, we kind of grew up with, the 80s style cartoons and then, the budding of the internet and all that and whatever. And the last 10 years or so with social media, it's been so like hyper focused, on different things and, having instant access and, overwhelmingly, inundated with advertisements, 24/7 and stuff like that. And I think it's so nice when you can connect with someone. You can, really enjoy, a good book or a good story or, just something that, it just feels so genuine because there's so much stuff out there today. I mean, like, honestly, even like for me today, I posted 2 videos and made a post about the show and and I made a post right before the show about going to seeing my friend's comic book and my other friend's book and it's nice to kind of step back and say, hey, you know what? Let me take a look at this and check out this book. Let me check out what this author's all about and what they're doing. Or like coming to town and taking a tour with a real live person who's going to tell you the stories of, of the area that you want to look at. You know what I mean? It's kind of like getting back off of the, digital side of things and like really just kind of diving into, life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I like about your storytelling. And Ryan, too. I mean, like, you're a great storyteller as well. I know you don't necessarily write fiction, but you're a great storyteller because, I love the way you kind of take all these different facts and you pull together, like something that makes sense. You're like, okay, well, found this. Let me pull this all together so it actually is a coherent story because, a lot of times in real life, things are not necessarily coherent and they don't happen in sequence.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I can appreciate about, your way of storytelling too. So, all right. Sebastian, would you mind playing a little bit for us before we take a few minute break? And then we're going to be coming back at 4:00, y'all, for the second hour with Allan Gunnels, who is an author. His new book, 324 Abercorn, is coming out July the 8th, right?
That's right.
And Ryan Dunn, who he and his wife Kim have Afterlife Tours, which is a tour company here in Savannah. And then Ryan is also like, not to brag on you, Ryan, but you've been on like a bunch of like paranormal investigation shows and, a lot of things like that. So it's pretty cool. So you'll need to check out Ryan's stuff too, because like there's all kinds of stuff out there that you got your new book coming up. Like, is it going to come out later on this year or is it going to come out early next year?
Probably later, probably early of next year. I'm thinking like January or February, but my publisher takes forever. So, and I've actually dragged my feet on my Savannah book. My St. Augustine new book came out. I guess it seemed to flow a lot faster.
Okay.
But the Savannah book that I just wrote has 26 new cases in it. So it was kind of it was a lot of research. There's about probably 5 or 6 years of research in just that one book. So. Oh,
awesome. All right, Bass, will you mind playing a little bit for us before we take it off? And everybody will be back at 4:00. Here's Sebastian Messer.